shots behind.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't move. Ah, I can't move. Do you know though? Probably world spawn. Oh, yep.
Push back if you want.
Killed.
Good.
Oh,
You're up.
close. No, someone close. No, I'm dead. Someone killed the shit out of me. At the end of March, I put out a video on my anticipation of the game Marauders. It's now May and I've participated in the closed alpha and there's a lot to break down. This is my honest and subjective opinion. If you like it or hate it more than me, I don't really care because this is my opinion. If you feel like telling me what you think, leave it in the comments below. When the game works, it's actually really fun, and that's saying something. The game has had an overwhelming amount of interest during this closed alpha, absolutely maxing out the servers and making it very hard to get into a queue for raids. The matchmaking and party system right now is pretty awful, but that's exactly why this alpha exists, to fix these issues. This game is essentially Escape from Tarkov if you were a space pirate. Pretty much Mad Max in space. Except the fact that you travel around an asteroid belt in a rust bucket before you start actually fighting. Once you're into a raid, it has a super unique feel, because you always start in the ship. It makes me want to try Elite Dangerous or Star Citizen because space dogfights are such a fun and cool concept, and it doesn't feel at all shoehorned into this universe. It's presented in a really cool way, and there's some serious strategy to taking on a ship head on, or getting into a third party fight, making this a very dynamic experience, albeit quite a difficult one. This is a game that might just be harder than Escape from Tarkov. When you're in a raid, there is no secure container, no insurance, and there are no scav runs. So you're basically running the equivalent of your PMC all the time. Same way the cycle approaches it, but this gives even less handouts. There is no free loadouts or money generators. Once you spawn in your ship, you'll sometimes see a Luger, well rod, or a pouch vest and some 9mm ammo. And that's the closest thing you get to free loot, so you really have to work for it. Another reason this game is so difficult is because all the combat is essentially indoors. So if you're not a factory, labs or dorms enjoyer like I'm not, you're probably going to find this combat a little confronting. It almost always forces you to take the fight because you can't just slip away and avoid a fight or flank the enemy and reposition. You'll be heard moving and all fights are pretty much CQB, so there is no real opportunity to get a long range snipe on someone and move on. It's high tension fights all the time. As this is a brand new game, it's a lot like Tarkov before the wiki existed. There are no maps and no guides out just yet, so finding quests and learning maps is challenging yet exciting. It really is gaming in its purest form. It reminds me of being a kid again, and that thrill is so often few and far between with the internet nowadays. I do like how fresh the game feels without knowing every single crevice of it before I even fire up the game, but I do feel it could benefit from an offline mode as the maps, which there are two of, are quite similar in look and feel. One is a space station and the other is a mine. I think the mine is the cooler of the two maps, but it's still a very grey toned map with many maze-like corridors making it really hard to remember where you docked your ship. The time to kill in this game is probably a little too quick for even my liking. I'm usually okay with fast combat, but when you have armor classes ranging from 1 to 12 and it still feels like you get put down in 1 to 2 bullets, no matter what you're wearing, it just feels bad. There is zero time to react, and if you're playing in a squad you have a bigger advantage, in the ship combat and in the CQB fights. I've mostly been playing this game in duos and trios, and I honestly couldn't do it solo. It's just too easy to get jumped on your ship, as the raiding is completely unconditional, which in some aspects is cool and very immersive, but it allows you to get griefed by 3 or 4 man groups quite easily, and you have next to zero chance to defend yourself as a solo player unless you're a massive sweat at PvP shooters. When you successfully pull off a ship raid, it feels really good, but it also does feel like spawn camping if you just attack the first ship you see and board them or blow them out of the sky. If you or they have come into a raid fully geared and get boarded, and the moment you spawn in, it's pretty much gone in seconds. With that said, the stash in this game is quite limited, and they make you feel like gear is not precious. No guns or armor are really impossible to get. Hoarding a stash full of high tier loot is not encouraged, meaning you either have to sell your items or use your gear, and not ride around with a cheap and nasty one-shot cannon, which I think is quite a positive for the game. The AI in Marauders is actually pretty impressive. You can usually tell if it's an AI if they pre-fire on you, or shoot at a corner you're standing at where you can't be seen but they are detecting you. I mean, other than that, they crouch walk around and look just like other players. For the most part, I like this because you don't get as lazy fighting the AI as you can in other games where they tend to derp out and you just one tap them. I'm finding this game is making me check corners and clear rooms a lot more effectively because the threats are so high with an insanely quick time to kill. The menus in this game are pretty well thought out as well. The crafting seems to be a very important component of this game, which is cool as it's the only way to get bags and certain meds so that you can have a better raid. The fact that this crafting system is actually paired with the raiding system is great. It's not tedious, it's not out of the way, and you can queue multiple items that you need to keep playing the game. This may be the best crafting system we've seen in this style of game yet. Although it is limited, it feels meaningful, and that is the key. Your stash is just like EFT, only it's much smaller and can be expanded upon prestige at level 40. I think this will probably need some tweaking as it's quite easy to level up, and people who know life the game will not feel challenged by the leveling system. Customization of your character could honestly use a bit of a rework as well. I like the fact that everything is unlockable quite easily, but so much of it just looks the same, that it doesn't feel super exciting to get a new skin just yet. Marauders have an interesting take on traders. They are only available every 10 to 15 minutes and one at a time when they arrive in your hangar, so you only have access to their specific items for that time period. They are leveled up by completing contracts, which in this current version of the game is only dailies. They are handed out 5 every 24 hours, but they are not the easiest things to complete without a map. Some of them are so light on details that it's a bit of a mystery on how to do them still. Contracts pay very well though, so you should be aiming to finish them as they keep you afloat in the economy. Contracts you complete will go towards leveling up the traders of the respective factions, which offers you a percentage discount and opens up new items available for you to buy from them. Hopefully in the future this game sees a more robust storyline alongside these daily quests. I'd even be happy to see a single player campaign because there's definitely a market out there looking for a game that has raid based combat but prefer PvE or just playing with their friends and don't enjoy being cheated on. It would actually benefit all games of this type to cater to that audience to strengthen the lore and make a deeply fulfilling experience for those who love storytelling. What there is in terms of lore and story right now is very cool and I'd really like to see it expanded upon. I found the hangar something I'm just not caring about in this game. Stealing or crafting new ships doesn't interest me too highly, as a lot of the time it's easier to survive your raid by just taking the escape pods. I'm sure it works for some people who like it, I just found it underwhelming. The workbench however can be interesting. I didn't spend a lot of time using it because there is limited attachments in this game, but I did buy all the things you need to play with a high ergo or low recoil Uzi, and the differences were quite significant. If this was expanded upon for more weapons and you could maybe drag and drop attachments onto your weapons, that could be really cool. As mentioned earlier, this is an alpha, meaning a lot of things are subject to change, and this is a proof of concept, so anything they can do to tighten up mechanics would be great. Optimization and moving items in the game can be pretty wild at times, but it's to be expected at this stage. I would like to see them add a lot of quality of life changes like shift clicking to quickly buy, loot and equip items to save a lot of dragging and dropping, and being able to bulk buy items for the same reason. In my personal and honest opinion, this is a great showing for the game. I found myself very forgiving of the visual and moving bugs and inconveniences of the game because it gives you such a rush to loot, kill and extract just like EFT. I love that I've been able to play this game with my friends from across the world. I played on US West servers with a mere 70 ping, which is better than I can get in most Asian servers on my side of the world for other games. So the servers they are using seem to be very good and the netcode seems fine. It's just their matchmaking and friends list that can be a real burden. Constantly having to exit and relaunch the game to remain in a party with friends is the most annoying thing, alongside hearing the introduction video at full volume every time the game launches. I'd like to be able to disable that intro or turn the volume right the fuck down. This game shows a lot of promise and I can see myself losing many hours of my life to it, especially if they allow you to squad up with people across continents at a low ping. It just makes this game so much more accessible for a person like me. I'm really excited to see how this game changes, evolves and introduces new maps and mechanics, as the foundation is very solid and it's clear that they understand the Tarkov Light model. This is a high recommendation for me. If you buy into this game, you will have access to future alpha and beta builds of the game to test with your friends. And don't forget to always leave critical feedback for these developers in their surveys and Discord channels so we can see positive changes throughout this game's life. And please don't be rude and nasty to the devs. Their transparency and communication is top notch, so we should be sending them our praise, not our hate. That's all my thoughts on the game at this current point in time. I've been thinking about doing some guides for this video, but this alpha is so short that by the time they reach you, they will likely be irrelevant. So in the future, if you want to see something like that, let me know in the comments below and I'll make sure I work on those the next time the game comes around again. Thanks for watching everyone, I'm Warchild. If you liked the video, please leave a like, sub to help grow my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.